Okay, so the first thing, when I was looking at charismatic leadership and looking at the FARC, there are literally two people who are considered founders of the FARC. The first of these on the left is Jacobo Arenas. The second on the right is Manuel Marilanda, sure shot. In some of the other research I've performed, there were multiple leaders. And even these two guys are both considered the founders, but when I was looking through Arenas' writings, and I had to do a lot of research for this in Spanish, so hopefully my translations are correct. But he considered Sure Shot the military commander. He reveres him in his writings. And at one point in these writings, he's talking about how Sure Shot came up during the middle of a conversation. The rest of these guerrillas were talking. We're talking like, here in the jungles of Colombia. The rest of them were talking. Sure Shot comes up, says a comment, and Arenas stands up and he says, "I stood up like a squirrel at attention." That might be a rough translation too. Okay. He's like, "But I stood up like a squirrel at attention and saluted him." Okay, so and throughout his other books, I'm working on a second book of his right now, and going through that. Arenas is the second in command. This is the military commander. This right here, this is the writer. This is the political spokesman. This is your military commander, as evident by what he's saying. But by the way he's dressed too. Arenas is always in that little cap with his little scarf. He's always wearing a scarf. I don't really understand, but there you go. Perfect picture. Sure shot right here, followed by all his troops. Okay, so I'm looking at him as a charismatic leader. I'm sorry, this is probably difficult to read, but it's a chart and it's important. What I did was I looked at Weber's characteristics for charismatic leadership. If you remember in the social sciences, Weber is one of the main people that the academics are exposed to. He basically had three types of authority. So there's legal rational, okay, which authority comes from the law. Traditional, it comes from a very long line of established leadership, particularly like a monarchy, and the last one being charismatic. And when he talks about charismatic leadership, one great example of a charismatic leader would be like Jesus Christ, okay, or Muhammad the prophet. So he goes through all these criteria, and I look at each of these criteria and see whether Sure Shot can be considered a charismatic leader, according to Weber. Okay, so the first of these is authority of a higher being for a mission. Yes, but there's a caveat with this. That being, okay, so does Sure Shot think that he was sent by a higher being to create a communist Marxist revolution in Colombia? Yes, it was more so the people that were the higher being, because if you remember about Marxism, religion is what keeps people within their social classes. Okay, so religion by nature itself is not applicable as for the higher being. Okay. Second, does he have the complete obedience of his followers? Yes. Although the communist system, there's supposed to be this idea of brotherhood and we're all equal, there is a hierarchy set up within the FARC. He is the leader. They do what he says. Bringing material and social rewards, yes. You're certainly not going to get rich being in the FARC. Okay, they're living in the jungles. It's very difficult, especially when they first started. They would ask for boots from peasants. And they would, I don't think they had shoelaces sometimes, and they didn't have uniforms. But there was some prestige of being a fighter to revolutionize this Colombian society, to be the spokesperson for the peasant. So there was that type of societal reward. Of course, he directs and organizes the organization. Again, delegates power to his followers. Arenas is his second in command. Seeks to defray the cost from his own pocket. I don't know. I haven't found enough evidence to say yes or no on this yet. Still working on some of this. Develops an army trained and equipped by the leader. In the beginning, these guerrilla groups, okay, they were sent out by the Communist Party in about 1947. At first, they were just little peasant groups. The Communist Party gave them the authority and then kind of stepped back. After the assassination of Jorge Gaitán, and I'll talk about him in a minute, they actually sent them out and had communist people in charge of these guerrillas. Okay, they were peasants. And Marilanda was actually in the party beforehand. and was one of the ones who was in charge, and then took over command completely. Rejects profit from the organization, has no rational economic behavior. Is he trying to profit from being, the supreme commander of the FARC? No. I mean, again, they're in like mountainous jungle regions. Okay, this is not a glamorous existence at all. It's very difficult, hot. There are diseases, things like that. So no, I mean, this is for the cause. This is all for his cause, for his beliefs. He's not elected, of course. He was chosen. I don't know about leadership stability. He was in charge of the FARC literally from its founding until he died. I think in the mid-90s, I think is when he passed away. Arenas, I think, followed him or preceded him by a year or two. Either way, both of them are dead. But I don't know. I'm still looking for research on that. And he selects his successor, of course. It's Arenas. Okay, so why is this important? Why is charismatic leadership important? Why am I using this? Because it's the charismatic leader. It's the leadership that kind of radicalizes itself. Okay, so he radicalizes over time, becomes violent, chooses violence, and then again directs the followers, the peasants who are these guerrillas, to also choose violence. The leadership is what's important to me, not so much what the government does or poverty or anything else. The leadership is what causes radicalization. And obviously I can't put all the quotes and everything else that I use from this, but I have it all, written within the chapter. Okay, secondly, I'm using, the second reason is frustration aggression theory. And what I'm using here is frustration aggression theory from Dollard. Okay, and what Dollard and several cohorts said that were, I think there were like 12 of them. It was ridiculous how many people co-authored this book, maybe 8, anyway, a huge number. But they said that human frustration always leads to aggression. When a person is frustrated repeatedly over the same issue, it may lead to violent attacks. And it is also applicable to groups of people, as to why groups of people radicalize. Okay, what this literally means is the first time that someone says to me, your hair looks bad. Okay, my response might first be, well, thanks. Some kind of smart remark or something like that. The second time it happens, I might say, well, that's a really crappy comment to say to me. The third time someone says something like that to me, of course the same kind of person or same type of thing that's causing this frustration, I might just smack them. Or I might not. Either which way, aggression is broadly defined by Dollard. Okay, so it may be a smart remark, it may be I turn my back and walk away, it may be that I write a letter or something saying I don't like you, whatever the case may be, it's broadly defined, but it does eventually lead to violence. Not always, but can.